I had two sisters come, like what you guys come, and they came in and I had an old Betty Crocker cookbook, the old bound ones, and they said, oh, look on page 40. And I said, what's on page 40? Oh, it was Mom's favorite recipe. And so there was a cookbook, and who's going to get it? And I said, hey guys, there's another one upstairs. So they each bought a cookbook so they'd have Mom's. So it's that kind of stuff. It's nostalgic stuff.
Welcome to Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens, a show for people who embrace the warm and cozy spirit of everyday living in the Midwest. From the blog Random Sweets, I'm your host, Stacy Mergenthal. If you love vintage finds and repurposed antiques, Sharon Hohler is someone you want to know. In this episode, I sit down with Sharon. She's the heart and the hands behind Homeless Treasures of Tracy, Minnesota. It's a place where the quirky, the vintage, and the perfectly odd come together to tell stories of the past and spark imagination for the future. It's set on an acreage just south of Tracy, and her ever-evolving collection stretches across 3 buildings plus outdoor spaces with everything from barn-salvaged wood and estate sale treasures to DIY-ready furniture and the wonderfully weird. Sharon brings warmth and welcome to every visitor, and her favorite part is the people, whether they're reminiscing over Grandma's Pyrex, repurposing a bed frame into a garden trellis, or just simply wandering through for inspiration. Sharon loves the stories they share. We talk about the emotional connection that we have to our belongings and creative ways to rehome or reuse them, and what her husband says she's absolutely not allowed to bring inside her home anymore. And bonus, she shares 3 of her favorite recipes, including her giant banana muffins, which she started baking after years of banana bread fails. View this episode's photos and recipes on my website, randomsweets.com. And if you like this episode, please rate, comment, share with your friends and family. And if you aren't already, sign up to get alerts when new episodes are available. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here in your pre-game planning, pre-season, your game where you're setting up. We're sitting in in the smaller building. What do you call this one? The brown?
Swedes building, my gray building.
The gray building. Yep. Okay.
A guy named Swede built it.
Okay. How old is the building?
14 years.
Okay. I was going to say this doesn't look like an old sort of barn type, but I've been coming out here to Homeless Treasures south of Tracy, Minnesota, since the summer that you opened. And I've taken home with me over the years many things and have come out pretty much every year, but there's been a few years that I haven't made it. I think we even came out during COVID, my sisters and I. But I have some items that I've gotten here that make you part of my everyday life. So you're part of my life every day, Sharon.
Thank you.
One of them is, I don't know if you remember this, and I'll share a picture on the blog post, but the stand-up, well, it's a workbench, and it's tall, and some guy must have cobbled it together with a whole bunch of different wood. I think where you had it displayed was just outside the front door of this building on your little porch.
I remember that.
Very cobbled together, and it has 2 drawers.
Very, very unique and,
yes.
and just worn out, but
yes.
Really cool.
Yeah. And so that is my desk in my office. That is what I work on every day. And have a tall, a chair that adjusts to go up that tall. And last year, because I would kind of get slivers in my arms because the top of it is so rustic. And Jason's like, I can glaze that. We can sand it down and glaze it. I was so determined to keep the rustic charm of it that I thought, no, I don't want to ruin it, but I also don't want to get slivers in my arms anymore. And so we did and glazed it, and it's kind of glossy on the top. It's beautiful and old and very cobbled. And I think Jason just shakes his head like, I can't believe you.
Why do you love this thing so much?
I know, but it's so cool. And then we have a vintage yellow velvet chair that I got here, and it's right in our front door. So it's our chair that you sit on to put on your shoes, take off your shoes, whatever. And then for sure in the entryway bench, there's a basket, an old, I don't know if it was a freezer basket or what, that I keep shoes in and just slide that in and out. Mm-hmm. So there's many items around my house, but part of them I just was thinking, she's part of my everyday life.
I remember the Norwegian coffee pot set that you bought or whatever it was.
Yes.
Too, yeah.
2 coffee pots, 1 teapot, and then I think 6 coffee mugs.
Yep.
And I wrote it down what those were because they were very unique and they were Swedish. They're one is floral and most of them are the rooster design by Berggren Trainer.
As if
I had to look it
I
up.
just buy because I like stuff and,
Yeah.
you know, and I do look things up to see what they are, but
Sure.
yeah, and people love it, so.
I remember being like, I don't know which one to buy. Do I get the one with the rooster? Do I get the coffee pot or the teapot? Do I get the cups? And I'm like, all right, I'm coming over. I'm just going to get it all.
And you made me smile.
So I do have that as well. And that's on display. I don't really ever use it, but it's on display in our dining room. So
Cool.
Yeah. Well, Sharon, thanks for letting me come over today. And I want you to just kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are.
My name is Sharon Hohler. I've lived out here in the farm for 30 years now, and have a husband, Randy, of 50 years, 2 daughters, 2 son-in-laws, and 4 grandkids. Yep, and we love it on the farm. It's perfect for us.
Do the grandchildren live around here? We're south of Tracy, Minnesota, about a handful of miles, right? 5-6 miles
Yeah.
south. Okay.
My oldest daughter and her family live in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and my youngest daughter and her family moved to South Carolina 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little different for us, but we get to see them on over the phone and stuff, video chat and stuff. So
Thank
and they
goodness.
come home once a summer usually. So
Okay. Thank goodness for FaceTime.
oh heavens, yes.
Now, don't forget about the furry friends that are just outside the door here.
I have a big black lab named Kuno, who is my shop dog, and now I've added a new puppy, a golden doodle named Swede. He's about 11 weeks old, and he's just a honey. He's learning the ropes. He's going to be a real good puppy out here.
Yeah, he's really sweet. And he's already potty trained and named after your dad.
My dad's nickname.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So you've been around here at this farm for 30 years. Where were you before that?
when Randy and I were first married, we lived in Tracy. We bought a home before we were married there and lived there. And then he worked for the city of Tracy, so he had to live in town. And then he always wanted an acreage, and I always wanted an old farmhouse. Well, you know, God always has a plan, and we ended up moving out here. Things had changed, so we bought this property without a house on it. It had burnt down.
Oh.
And moved our big 3-story farmhouse 28 miles from by Lucan
Oh, I never knew.
and put it here. Put a basement and did all that stuff. And so we have 8.3 acres, and we're pretend farmers with all the guys around us. And they think my business is just fine, so
Yeah.
it's great.
So Randy doesn't farm. You guys
No,
don't
no.
farm.
He worked for the city of Tracy for 26 years, and he's been retired for, a long time.
Okay.
Since 2007, I think.
Okay.
So-
People ask that too. Jason and I, we have 20 some acres, and we don't farm either. So we're pretend farmers, and we're friends with the farmers that live around us.
But I call us pretend farmers,
Sure.
So,
yeah. And what did you do? Do I remember that you were a retired teacher when you
Yep.
started out
My
here?
first job, I was a beautician. I worked for the same lady in Tracy for 36 years in her home shop. She was like a second mom to me and a grandma to my kids. That's, and her kids grew up with me working there too. And then I worked as a para at the same time. You kind of overlap for 24 years at Tracy Elementary. And then I've also worked at Hospice of Murray County as a end-of-life caregiver, which is my passion. That and junk are my two passions in my life.
Do you still do that?
The caregiving. I do some just private hire sometimes.
Okay.
Or I provide cares for people, but not with under hospice itself.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have grown up around here then. It sounds like if you were in
Oh
Tracy.
yeah, I lived in Tracy all my life. So
Okay. All right.
graduated class of 72.
Class 72, Sharon. I'm not going to tell you that was the year I was born. Shh. I thought we were about the same age. Okay, so you retired from teaching.
Yep, 11 years ago.
Okay. And so 11 years ago must be when you opened Homeless Treasures, or was
Yep,
it?
I was dabbling here with that, and then when I retired, then got this building, and then my white barn that I have, and added to the pink shed, And then the county says I can't have any more buildings unless I have a meeting with my neighbors. You own 8 acres, and they still have rules, yeah.
Okay. I thought once you live out of city limits, you don't really have to worry about that stuff, but no.
Not so.
What county are you in here?
Murray County.
Murray County. Okay. All right. So what did Randy, your husband, what did he said, you're going to do what? Did he already kind of know that you had this in mind? Or
Oh, yeah.
you started bringing junk home in the truck?
We've always done rummage sales and stuff. He likes to do that. And in auctions, used to be a lot of live auctions. So we'd go to auctions for entertainment. And back then I didn't buy and sell a lot. I'd do a rummage sale like once a year. And so when we moved out here, I had a neat neighbor lady that also liked this stuff. And then a fellow that was my high school English teacher, he lives over on Sandbar Road on Lake Chautauqua, and he likes this stuff. So we started a rummage sale, a yard sale thing on Father's Day weekend. And we did it. We've been doing it for all the years since we've moved here. And that's what spawned my business.
Okay.
Because people really liked it. And I'm like, well, maybe I could do that out here, you know?
I didn't realize that kind of the beginning of it. So... And Randy is helpful, and
he's on board. Randy's gotten older; his knees are really bad, so he's not physically really able to do everything for me. But he saws wood and he welds and he does all the things that I don't do, so that's perfect.
Because this is very physical. I mean, some of these pieces of furniture are massive and heavy, and so I was wondering, how do you do that by yourself, or if Randy helps, or
he helps when I really need help. Otherwise, I'm really good with my cart. I can handle, although I am rethinking sometimes now what I buy, because sometimes it's a little too much for me to do. And I have people who will help too. So, but you know me, it's hard to ask for help.
Yeah, I get that.
Mrs. OCD here that does it her own way.
And humble Minnesotans, Midwesterners. So for people who don't know what Homeless Treasures is, tell us what you're doing out here.
Homeless Treasures is 3 buildings on my farm, sitting on a nice yard, open yard. I buy and sell almost anything and everything. Not a lot of glass. People don't buy glass anymore. But I just love everything. So I like odd and unique. I love an old barn and an old shed to dig through and find a thing like your table, you said. That's where you find those kind of treasures. I price things so that people can afford them. It's worked out really, really well. This is starting my 14th summer. I'm open seasonal, not for the winter because I don't have any heat. As we know this morning, sitting here with jackets on.
It's comfortable though. Yeah. But yes, and in the winters around here, it just wouldn't. You'd have to snowplow your whole yard in order for people to get out to your buildings and park and.
Yep, and it's just not conducive to good shopping either. It's no fun. It's too cold.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about going and getting things, like I'm wondering, where do you go pick? Where do you find all these treasures that need a new home?
It used to be always auctions. I do some online auctions locally, like Redwood Falls and like that. And so you can go and just pick it up. They just sold out. The Springfield had a huge antique store there. And they did 9 auctions out of that building.
That Springfield one closed?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The fella is not well. And so I did quite a bit of buying off of there, and just a jaunt to Springfield to go pick it up. So it worked out really well. Otherwise, I do yard sales, rummage sales, thrift stores, and then I have so many offers for private. I buy privately from people, and that's the biggest thing right now. So
people know to give you a call and ask
I
you
just
to come
had
out?
2 this week that people have contacted me via my Facebook page, and so then how I do that is I'll have them send me pictures of what they have. During COVID, I started doing that because you couldn't really go and do a lot face to face. And it worked out really well. So I have them send me pictures and, kind of weed it out that way, and then even negotiate pricing so that when you go, you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to spend and what you're going to bring home.
Oh, okay.
And it works out really well. People are awesome.
Are there other people around here that do that same thing that you're doing? Do you have competition with people about getting those phone calls for picking?
Yeah, they all wonder how I get them.
Because you're nice. Because people like you. I don't know.
because I sell such different things. I think I'm not looking for. Well, I love high quality pieces, but I can't pay that kind of pricing. I'm maintaining my pricing this summer. I'm not going to raise prices. Used to be I could go get a load of stuff for maybe a couple $100. Now it's up
Not
to
anymore.
like $350 to $400 to fill my truck. But that's life. But
Even barnwood has, around here, you'd find old fallen down buildings on farm places, and people could just come and take it. And now you don't let people do that because you know you can get really good money for it. And
Yep.
people sell the fallen down buildings with the old barnwood.
Yep. It's really kind of crazy, but people are very kind to me. It's just awesome. I always say I have junking angels. So when I go find, I was just over by Redwood, and I met the nicest couple, and their daughters had contacted me because they were leaving the farm, moving into town in Redwood, and I got an invite. So I went, and I got such fun stuff, and they just loved me, and I loved them, and and now the cupboard we're sitting by here, the little Hoosier, I got that from them. It's just gorgeous.
It's in really good condition too.
Yep.
So
and it was fair pricing, and I pay fair prices. I always tell people I'm not rich. I can't spend lots of money, but I'll pay fair prices.
Sure.
So,
And so you have, just kind of looking around here, you do have a mix of, there's old coffee tins and old Coca-Cola crates and this Hoosier cabinet and an old, like a little child's school desk and chair that's looks like mint condition, and old jars, and you have some china. But some things you have finished, so you will refinish them, and you have a little workshop
Yeah.
out there that got built.
like that buffet behind, I painted that one. I
Okay.
don't paint very often, but sometimes you have to.
Okay.
And then that one I showed you here, that one I have a real project there for somebody to try.
Yeah,
So,
it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. And then somebody else will be able to
they're
finish
going to need a
it,
vision,
so, yeah.
But I don't have any place else to put it right now, so he's going to sit in here.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Like I said, I think sometimes people some people don't like to do projects, but some like to, and so they'd prefer to not have it painted and ready. So a good mix.
And especially when it'll be priced accordingly.
Sure.
So
Because you
that's-
didn't do the painting. And yeah. You kind of talked about when you first opened, you said 14 years ago?
Yeah, it'll be 14 years on June 11th.
Okay. How has it kind of evolved? How have you evolved here, or how has just kind of this industry and the people, you kind of talked about what things used to cost and things are going up, but
It's just like you have a dream, and then you put it together. I started out with this building. I was thrilled. I had this, and it wasn't very long that it's like, it kind of grew, And then my barn was gifted to me, my white barn, from one of my neighbors that bought a farm that was going to be torn down.
oh, how sweet.
And so they gifted me the barn. There's those junking angels again. And, and it just evolves. I tell people that it doesn't happen all at once. You have a dream and everything. And they always laugh at me because sometimes out here it's just busier and busy, which is wonderful. But I had times when I first started that I was so excited when I had 6 people in my yard and they didn't all come in the same car. Honestly.
Sure.
That was a big, I remember it exactly because it was pretty sparse at first. But you build it, and Facebook is, a godsend. That's how I advertise. No paper advertising.
And word of mouth. I know that you do a really, really swell job of supporting all of these other kind of regional, not just like in Tracy or shops similar to this or boutiques, but your small town, home owned, and you share their events and their things all the time.
I do.
And some of them would be considered competition, but you're friends in a community.
The shop hop, we do a shop hop on Mother's Day weekend and on the 3rd weekend of September. And there's 14 shops in our little area here, from here to 25 miles to Lamberton, in that area, including Curry and Revere and Walnut Grove and myself. And we all work together. It's not a competition. We all have our own little niche that we do. Works out really, really well. We're very, very blessed. that we have that.
And that's how I found you. Was I was out road tripping, whatever, one day, and was in Tracy and at a shop. I don't even remember what it was, but they're the ones who handed me a little slip of green paper that had it said Homeless Treasures and had your phone number and address and stuff. And they said, this lady's going to be opening. And so I think I remember calling you to say, are you open? Do you, right? Like later in that year. And that's how my sisters and I first had come out.
Yep.
Because they shared that information with us.
And that's what we do. Even after the shop hop, I keep the shop hop paper thing here. And we're going to have a brochure this summer. Someone's putting one together. So you can hand it out and say, check these guys out. We're not I'm open every weekend unless it's a family thing. Some of them are only open pop-up sales or only certain weekends. So that's all on their Facebook pages.
And that's good to note, too. I maybe would have mentioned it at the end here, but while we're thinking of it, I think it's a good idea before you come here to Homeless Treasures and so many of these other places to check their social media before you head out, if it's going to be a little bit of a drive, because sometimes, like you said, it's a family emergency or maybe a wedding. So you're open every weekend, but sometimes you're not. So don't just assume, because you'd hate to have somebody drive out and then
we all post in if something changes. Yeah. So it works out really good. Yeah. But if you're like me, I don't live on my phone either. So how that works. But make it work the best we can.
What kind of people? I mean, I'm one of these kinds of people who love all this stuff. And what kind of people do you encounter who come out here and shop?
Oh, all different kinds. It's what's really heartwarming to me is I call them the 20-somethings, the younger gals, because they love it because they're saving stuff from the landfill. They're repurposing and they're doing things. And then you got the next group up that just kind of like it. They're just, looking for something different. And then you got the ones who, like my age, come and they remember all this stuff, aging myself. Or I have a fun story that I had two sisters come, like what you guys come, and they came in and I had an old Betty Crocker cookbook, the old bound ones, and they said, oh, look on page 40. And I said, what's on page 40? Oh, it was Mom's favorite recipe. And so there was a cookbook. And, who's going to get it? And I said, hey, guys, there's another one upstairs. So they each bought a cookbook so they could have Mom's. So it's that kind of stuff. It's nostalgic stuff. Just all kinds of different, just fun.
I wanted to talk about that. I know my mom has come out here and she isn't buying new things. She's downsized and downsizing more. But she loves to come to places like this and talk about, oh, I remember when Grandpa Hulsebus had this, or your grandma used this, or just sort of you kind of go down memory lane. It's more of an experience than it is coming shopping. You're experiencing something when you come to a place like this.
And it's so fun to hear their stories. I learn something from people all the time. And even the men. I have quite, the guys, I always have a little man corner here and up in the barn and outside because, they get bored, But we had an old Seagram's, like a coin thing. And the guy says, he's looking through my box. I always have things with $2 or $3 items. And he says, do you know what this is? And I said, I know it says Seagram's. And he says, yep. And he says, you know what they did with it? And I said, nope. And he says they would take and they'd spin it on the bar. And in the back, I didn't ever turn it over. In the back, there was an arrow when you spin it. And whoever had the arrow had to buy the next round.
So it's kind of like what did we play at birthday parties?
Yes, in the bottle. I mean, he was just so happy to tell me that story. It's just amazing, the things. So
right.
That's what makes it really fun.
Speaking of recipes, I came across this at Threads of Memories in Brookings a couple weeks ago. And I just think, who gives away a recipe box full of family recipes? Kay, have you gotten that? Do you see that often?
Yep, I sell them too. Yeah. People buy them because it's just fun. It's like going back through a history thing.
I know, but it blows my mind that there's a family out there that's like, nobody wants this recipe box. We're just going to get rid of it.
You can't believe what people, I don't know about your kids, but my kids don't want this stuff.
Yeah,
I told them if I drop dead tomorrow, put a half price sale on the door and go from there because they're not going to take it home.
Okay. Well, we're laughing about this, Sharon, but let's talk about sort of the psychological. People don't want to get rid of their stuff. And so then we die and we have all this stuff. Now our kids have to get rid of it. And that's really all they want to do is get rid of it. You've had hospice. You've had picking places that people are moving, or maybe somebody died. Like, do you have advice for people about getting rid of things and not leaving it? The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning. Have you read that book?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book, but I know the concept. Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's so hard for people. It's hard for the people who are the elderly who are moving because they are emotionally attached, and but somehow you know they work through that and they're happy that someone like I come and I do appreciate what they have, you know, and they know that I'm going to try. I can't buy it all, but I try to rehome it, and they know that somebody else is going to enjoy it. But when it comes to the younger set and what to do with it, most of them get a dumpster and throw it out, which is really sad to me. There are museums. There's all kinds of different things that you could resort to. Habitat for Humanity that you can donate to. I think Goodwill and like that are a little picky sometimes, especially I think in a bigger town they probably take more furniture and stuff. But you know, it's really a difficult situation.
Yeah. I like the idea of, I think if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read the book, The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning, but I remember doing it when you're able, not when you're being forced and you're older or forced into a home or something. Doing it when you're able to slowly go through things and you decide, you gift to somebody or to, like you said, to some of these places. A museum's a great thing. A podcast episode I'm going to do coming up is at the old courthouse museum in Sioux Falls. Right now they have an exhibit that is the evolution of cookbooks, or cooking evolution. And so I took my mom there, and it's quite interesting. I mean, they have different old cookbooks and like old kitchenware. And I mean, I would imagine, again, like what I hadn't thought of museums, there might be places that have different collections. I mean, it's an exhibit that will be done next year, so it's not like forever, but they keep those collections archived in a place. And so I guess there are options, but
I just had somewhere, I've been cleaning my basement, which is amazing. A big job, not done yet, but I come across something that is an old phone book from Ballatin, Minnesota. And my gosh, it's just, you know, advertising in it is just amazing, because that's how they paid for the, you know, to put them together. And I talked to John Wendorf out to the Wheels Across the Prairie. And I said, John, I can't keep all this stuff anymore. Would you be interested? And, oh, his eyes lit up. Yeah, he would really, you know. So I donate things too as I go. Sure. Because I find a home for it. Because otherwise, somebody will throw it away.
Yep.
But the advertising, I just love the old ads. So
yeah,
and the names, you go through and you know the names. You know, there's still names there that you recognize. So
I like some of the old. I have those old white, I call them milk glass, but I don't know what they are. And they have the advertising of businesses on them. And some of them are so old that they have like a 3-digit phone number.
Yep. I have one, an old, like the white what do you call it? A mixing bowl kind of thing with a handle on it. And it's got Randy's family's name from Iowa on it. That was a promotional thing that they did for their business.
Yeah. I use mine. Like they're part of my everyday.
Yep.
Right. Well, I have plenty of my own stuff to get rid of, and I know other people that have lots of things, and it's just hard to part with. And I think sometimes we feel like it's worth something, like dollar value. So it's hard to get rid of things because we're like, well, I could sell it. Well, what if you don't? Then they just sit there. So
Yep.
It's
and
hard.
that's like here too. Sometimes I guess wrong. You know, I said I don't go to the casino. This is how I gamble. I buy junk and sell treasures. So
yeah.
And then I just do a sale and sell it out, or just do stuff like that.
Do you have anything that you got that you just have still never been able to sell because you love it so much? You're like, I'm putting this in my house and I cannot get rid of it. What are some of those things?
I have this habit of collecting big old cupboards, kitchen cupboards, and
Nothing like something that takes up space.
I do, but I love it, and so then I rearrange, but Randy said no more cupboards. There's no place to put them, and I love them, and so those kind of things I keep.
Okay.
I have my big pump organ back there, and I no more need that than the man in the moon, but I love it, and it was playable when I got it. Now it needs repair on one of the pump things, but found a guy to do it, so I just have to have it done because I have people come and play the organ.
Oh.
It's just cool.
Sure.
But I have no place to put it in my house.
Randy's thankful.
Yes, he is.
Do you have the rule of, one comes in, one has to go out, that kind of thing?
Kind of. Yeah. Yep. I just bought a really neat old wainscoting cupboard, the farm green, Mm-hmm. And I rearranged my whole laundry room, which is a big room, a whole laundry room to put that cupboard in. But it's just my pantry now, so it works out perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. What are some tips that you have for like making the best shopping experience coming out here? I mean, just little things. If people haven't been here, like wearing good shoes, or if it's if it's been muddy,
dress for the weather.
Yeah.
Like today we've got jackets and stuff on, and it'll be like this yet. Sometimes when I'm open, mm-hmm. and dress for the weather. Come and just go for a good time. I've got crazy ducks and geese. People like to go look at my critters and that kind of stuff, and just making an experience. I always tell people when you walk through my buildings, I use every nook and cranny. So come through one way, go back out, and go back through the other way, and then you get a whole idea of what's available.
That is very true. Mm-hmm. That's very true.
And think outside the box. Look at something like, what could I do with this? Or like you did with your thing. But just be creative and never any need to spend money. I mean, just come and enjoy,
And bring cash while you're speaking of money.
There you go. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, a lot of these places, especially the ones that aren't attached to like a brick and mortar mm-hmm. type, are kind of a cash only. Cash
or personal checks.
You still take checks.
I still take checks. Yep. But I don't do the white card or any debit or anything like that. You'll find that most of us don't.
Well, it takes a lot of your money. You're already not making much profit, and then it takes a lot of that. So,
just it. And then the bookwork and stuff, it's just crazy. So, on my pricing, I include the sales tax. So I just include that in my pricing, and then I pay my taxes quarterly, and it works out great.
Mm-hmm. So you said that people will contact you, so that kind of answers my question. I was wondering if you're open to that, where people are like, oh, I have my grandparents' shed or mm-hmm. barn or whatever, so they can contact you.
My truck is hardly ever empty. I got that magnet on there. It says I stop at all yard sales, estate sales, furniture alongside the road, and the occasional dumpster.
And you do.
And people laugh. I stop at Walmart, and people come out and they're laughing at me. I said, it's all true.
Is there anything that you've gotten that you've sold and just kick yourself like, darn, I wish I would have kept that? Or anything that you passed on even getting, and you're like, I should have gotten that?
Oh, it's just funny. Sometimes I have to love on it for a while before I can sell it. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I just can't keep everything. So I have to, like I said, one thing in, one thing out, if there is something that comes across. But
which reminds me, if you see it here and want it, you better buy it, because it may not be here the next weekend. It probably won't be here the next weekend.
There's a sign that they make on an old saw that says it should have bought it when I saw it.
My sister Callie, I still remember, because my sisters and I still remember, we were at a place in Beersford, and Callie she loves Kate Spade, and she saw these old shutters that had a spade cut out. They were awesome. And I feel like we had stopped there on our way somewhere else, like south and out of town for the weekend. And she was like, I can't get those and have those in the way of the trunk. Maybe we were going to Omaha, I think, for a junk fest or something. She's like, I just can't have them in the way the whole time. And she didn't get them. And I mean, I swear this was 10 years ago, and we still remember those shutters with a spade and think, I wish we could find those for Callie because she didn't get them.
I know. Comes back to haunt you. But then I always say, well, wasn't meant to be. Because,
Right.
you have to let it go too.
Somebody probably, they went to a good home, so somebody else loves them just as much. Do you have and then also I'm thinking about, I think we have a picture. So what are some of the strangest things that you've had and sold? Because I have a picture of my sisters and I and you. I think it was on the 4th of July. Didn't Callie buy what do you call that? The old bedpan, like an enamel one?
I have that picture too.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, she put some flowers in it and hung it on the wall. And it's really cool. It's so eclectic, but it's really cool. What are some of the kind of weird pieces that you've sold?
Where we're sitting at here at this table, I had an old gray kitchen table, a 50s table, and I bought 4 chairs at the Restore in Marshall. And they look like the George Jetson era chairs. They were white and all framed, and then come down, and then they went down to the bottom. It was like one solid piece. Mm-hmm. They were just the strangest things ever, but they sat just beautifully. And after a while, I was like, oh boy, did I make a mistake? People just laughed, and I said, well, sit on them. They're really comfortable. And so then I posted the picture, and you never, because like we talked about, you don't always see everything. People don't see it, so I post a picture again. And this lady called me, and her granddaughter just absolutely had to have them. So they sold. I said that was one that I was really questioning, but it was so fun because it was so different.
There's always the right person that'll come along. You have to just be like, never would have thought, but there it goes.
My sister always tells me that because I see it all the time. And you said it, and you do all this stuff, and I get antsy. And she says, you have to remember that you see it all the time. The people that come on your yard, they're going to walk in here and be, wow, because they haven't seen it before. Mm-hmm. So don't let yourself do that,
Yeah.
So,
and the way that you style things, I wanted to just pick your brain. So you were a hairstylist in a para. How did you learn how to style and make everything beautiful? You're doing store merchandising in an amazing way.
Trial and error. Do you know how many times I set this building? Basically, I never put anything in the middle so you can't see past here. But I wanted to do this table, the 50s table, and the old cupboard as a unit. But I'll sometimes set this building and step back out and look and go, oh, God, that didn't work, And just in using things in odd and different ways, turn it someplace or put something weird in where you wouldn't put it. Mm-hmm. It's weird, too, how you buy things and all of a sudden you think, oh, I have this, I'll go with that. And you haven't even thought about the other thing because now you have this and now you go find what you need to make that work,
I kind of came across that recently because we finally took down some of the kitchen cupboards that I've been back and forth for a couple of years about trying to do. We didn't take all of our kitchen cupboards down, but a few top ones. And Jason built kitchen shelving out of our old barnwood. They're beautiful. And it amazed me how I was able to put everything together with all these different, these advertising bowls and some old books. And, of course, my grandma's old stand mixer is up at the top. And, an old wooden crate, from a greenhouse,
Mm-hmm.
When the flats used to come in a wooden crate. All these little pieces and stuff that I've picked up over the years and years, and how they just all came together to make these shelves look really cool.
Yep. And with the open shelves, you can use them or you can see them and enjoy them. With the closed cupboards, that's kind of in my house too. So I want it so I can see it and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Don't put it away.
And use the stuff too.
And use it too. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, over all these years that you've been buying junk, going to rummage sales, estate sales, auction sales, even before you even opened up this business, what kind of tips do you have for, or if somebody's interested in, if they have things and they're like, well, would this be worth something to sell? Do you have things that, yes, these are always a timeless thing that kind of can bring you in a little, or these things people, figurines or something, they always think.
I always, I tell people, like we talked about the kids getting rid of stuff, I said, do a sale. Even if you just do a walkthrough sale and have people just make you an offer or pay what you want. That way somebody's going to use it. It's not just going to go into the dumpster. And I don't know. People, I learned on my phone, I'm not real savvy, but on Google, there's a little search, a little photo button on there, and that you can do that. And you can, so now when I go to people to buy things, I'll show them how to use that. And so you have you have to take into consideration an asking price on eBay, and stuff. But it gives you a ballpark figure to look at. Your local shop swap things are, every town has got a site to sell things locally. Marketplace, but I don't like the scammers on Marketplace.
Yeah,
they're awful.
Yeah, I bet.
I don't trust people. So.
What kinds of things right now are sort of in style? Woods, metals, 50s?
Yep. Almost anything, The sign thing is pretty well gone. All the signs that people had, and that's kind of just faded out. And that's what changes over the time, I've got too much stuff. I'm planning to have a big sale this summer, and just to clean out some buildings and I think I'm going to call it just name your price sale. I am, right. and smalls or whatever, or things that don't, or I did a lot of, if you look it up on Google, there's all kinds of ideas about how to do a sale like that.
Okay.
And you can move a lot of stuff that maybe isn't right in the nook of what's selling all the time, but you never know who's going to come through.
Right. Well, we'll have to watch for that sale this summer then. Let's move into a little bit of the food and the cooking. I asked you, what's your cooking style? Like, are you
simple,
fancy gourmet?
Oh Lord, no. Nope. I said if I all the reels, you see all these wonderful recipes. Oh yeah, and it looks so good. And if I look through the recipe listing of what the ingredients are, if I don't have them, or I have to go buy 4 things, I will never make it.
Right.
That's just not me. Yeah. I like, at this stage in my life, quick and easy, because I spend too much time outside.
Right, which is really cool. And you're cooking for 2, which does make a big difference. We
2
know that.
And the one doesn't like leftovers very well. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. What are a couple of dishes that you're known for? So when you're asked, are you making this? Are you bringing this? What are some of those?
I make some really good banana muffins, because I can't make banana bread. It never turns out. It doesn't. So I found this recipe, and on the bottom it said, well, you can take this banana bread recipe and make it into muffins. So I quadrupled the recipe. And so I make 16 big banana muffins, and they're just perfect. They're awesome.
Are they, when you say big, because I saw your recipe and it said the big muffins, do
they're
you mean?
Not the little regular cupcake, it's the extra large.
Yeah, like when you go to a bakery, you're getting kind of those bigger ones with the big tops on them.
Yep.
Like a Perkins kind of.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And they turn out so good.
Because did I see that it's a lot of bananas?
Yeah, 4 cups.
That's what I thought. Is that really true? Okay.
Well, we eat bananas, and then they don't keep at all.
Yeah.
So when they get too ripe, and I put them in the freezer in a bag.
Yep.
And then take them out and mash them up, and it works great.
Okay. I wonder does your bread sink, or what's your?
It just it doesn't cook in the middle. Yeah. Huh. And I don't know, but It's been a long time.
So good banana muffins, and I have some bananas hanging there right now that I'm going to confiscate and set aside so that I can try those. I love banana bread and banana muffins. So.
And then after I get them baked, well, we do, we're old retired people, so we go to coffee a couple times a week. So once a week, I typically have to bring something for a treat.
Oh, yeah.
So I freeze them and then just pull out what I need and take them for coffee.
Okay.
So it works out good.
Yeah.
And the other recipe I gave you was my peanut clusters. I make those at Christmas time, basically, because then it's okay to eat all that junk,
Right. It seems more acceptable.
Yeah, and they're so simple and easy too. Just almond bark and chocolate chips and peanut butter, and vanilla, I think.
Okay. And then like a salted peanut, like just regular peanuts?
I used to buy the fancier peanuts, and now I just buy the jars of peanuts, and it works out great. So,
I think, did you send me a picture did you have a granddaughter helping you?
Yes, that was when they're dropping them on the kids did it for Christmas for me. So
that's what I was wondering is, do your grandkids help you in the kitchen a little bit?
Yep. Charlie and Piper, they're the ones that live in Minnetonka.
Okay.
Yeah. The rule is no licking your fingers or no licking the spoon until we're done. And they do really good. I have one more recipe, too, I was going to tell you. And I don't know if I sent you the picture. When I worked at school way back then, I'd made brownies. And I'd take them and, oh, God, they just thought they were the best brownies. They're so moist. And what's your recipe? I said, you buy 2 boxes of brownie mix, and you follow the directions, But the secret is the pan, the old wherever baking pan that's smaller than a bar pan and bigger than a 9x13.
Oh, it's bigger than, okay.
It's an in-between size, and they turn out just absolutely delicious.
So I knew there had to be a story. You did send me the picture, and it's a pan. And there's 2 boxes of brownie mix sitting in it.
And then Betty Crocker frosting.
And a jar of frosting. And I thought, there's got to be a story.
That's the story. And it just is. Those pans are just amazing. I own like 6 of them. So
okay.
They work great for baking all kinds of things. Or I think they were used at one time for a base for a roasting pan kind of thing. Okay. So
the Wherever brand, I used to be able to get that at Walmart. Is that even a thing anymore? Can you still?
No, these are old. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But they're just heavier too. Okay. That's why they bake so nice.
But you're doing 2 boxes in a pan, and it's bigger than a 9x13. So that just proves that it's okay for us to use box mix and pre-made frosting.
That's the kind of cook I am.
Yep. Pre-made frosting, and bring it somewhere and people will rave about it and want your recipe.
And I tell them the best part is if you can get the brownie mix on sale.
Right? Man, we used to be able to buy them like 99 cents a box. That's not the case anymore, really, but...
Nope.
So those recipes, have you shared them with your grandkids to the point where like they'll have them, they make them at home?
Yeah, both of the kids, and I know my kids in South Carolina too. My daughter that lives there, she is a cook. She likes to really try all kinds of things and stuff. And they bake cookies and do all that kind of stuff too. So yeah.
I'm doing a little presentation next week, I think it is, in Flandreau for the Christian Women's Group. And just kind of talking about my grandma's white cookies and learning how to make those, because her recipe card just has the ingredients and then basically like mix, refrigerate, roll, bake. And there's a lot more to that, but I didn't know that till I, went alongside her in the kitchen and had her show me how to make them. And that makes a huge difference to learn. So, but really the whole point of the story there is share your recipes. What are those few recipes that you have that people in your family really like? Don't die without sharing them and writing things down. A lot of people don't have things written down. And
Randy always has made homemade stuffing for like Thanksgiving, for the turkey stuffing. Okay. And he just does it from how his dad did it. Never been written down, and using, the seasonings and the sausage, and we dry our own bread and break it up and that kind of stuff. So last year, my daughter Erin from Minnetonka, she says, Dad, I want to help you do this. So then now it's written down.
Great.
So otherwise, I've never made it either because he always does it. So, but yeah, so we saved that one.
And good. And some of those things it's hard. I'm sure Randy was like, well, right. And so it is sometimes hard to write them down because you don't know, not so much in baking as much because those are a little bit more specific with measurements, but you still kind of have the unknowns and it's hard to capture that, but I really encourage people to do it.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you garden? You wouldn't possibly have time to do that, would you?
I have flower gardens that the perennials are beautiful even above the weeds. So,
great.
Great. It's just not something I have time for right now. But Randy typically does like tomatoes and peppers. So we can tomatoes.
So you do? You do some canning. Okay. Yep. I don't know how you possibly have time for that, but okay.
But I find it, it's something I enjoy.
Sure.
I enjoy canning tomatoes. So.
Did you grow up with having canned
Yep.
goods, like your
Yep.
mom or your grandma or?
My mom.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if my grandma ever did or not.
Okay. What would you like to say to people who have shopped here, who've come out here over the last 14 years, if they're listening?
Oh, I just appreciate everybody so much. They're just such a support group, and we laugh a lot. We tell stories. They become really good friends, and it's just wonderful. I miss it in the wintertime when I don't have my cohorts showing up, So, but I'm just very, very blessed and so thankful.
What do you do in the winter?
Oh, well, usually my dining room looks like a warehouse because I buy smalls all the time, and so I spend the time cleaning and pricing and fixing, and then I did have my workshop, but I didn't even hardly get out there this winter.
Is it heated?
Yes.
Yeah.
I put
okay.
a heater in it. That's just a time thing. But that's on my list now to, same as I weeded this out. Anybody that saw my pictures of the before and then of the after knows that I worked a minor miracle in here.
Yeah.
So, and there's a few things that, they need gluing or they need some clamping or they need, something. So that's the next thing to work on.
Sure. Yeah. Plus you're involved in your church and things, right? Or
right now I pray like a mad woman. And I listen to a favorite pastor of mine online.
Oh, okay.
But to go on site, I'm kind of not there right now.
Sure.
So,
okay.
but I know God's up there, and I know I have angels. So
I know you do, and you are one too. Have you thought of that? Well, think of what you've done in helping people through the end of life, and that takes God's work.
And that's what's kind of cool about out here. We talk about everything. When people are here, it's just like I always say I have Dear Abby on my forehead. But I love to hear the stories, and if somebody's got something heavy on their heart, they share it, and it's just, I think it's just how I am, that they know that they can do that. Mm-hmm. So
the ears of a junking bartender.
There you go.
So what's next for Homeless Treasures, Sharon? Do you have you don't have any new buildings? God, you don't have any new buildings coming,
No new buildings. I have some new ideas, though. We're going to expand on Father's Day weekend. I typically have a yard sale, and that's what we started with my neighbors way back.
Oh, sure.
And I've done that for all these years, but I'm going to expand that and do like a junk lovers market, and maybe have like 10 vendors come on that Saturday of Father's Day weekend. I've issued a few invites and have gotten good response. Just have to finish that up, and it's only 2 months away. So
wow.
And then like I say, I'm going to do that sale, that Name Your Price sale. That'll probably be Memorial Weekend.
Okay.
And then Labor Day weekend, the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, I host a flea market out here. And I've had 27 vendors the last 2 years across my yard. And there's no vendor fee to participate. I limit the, direct sales things, like candles and all that kind of stuff, or whatever they do, to only 5 people.
Okay.
Because people come here to buy stuff and junk.
Yeah.
But they also enjoy some, but I don't open it up to a lot of direct sales.
That's a good idea, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's, they have all those everywhere.
I'd be disappointed if I came out here and it was a whole bunch of the direct sales and then not much more of the thrifting.
And, right.
Yeah.
And so that's our summer will be gone again. So.
I'll post, because there are, what did you say, 20 some different shops
14.
in the area? 14.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So I'll share those on the blog post and then in the show notes of this podcast episode too, so that people can see what other places. We won't list them all off here, but I was thinking about, you live rural like Jason and I do. We're 45 minutes, about an hour away from each other, but where do you go if you go out to eat? Where do you go around here? Do you have any recommendations for a favorite spot that you like to go to?
It's really a sad situation around here because we had a restaurant close in downtown Tracy. We have the Caboose out on the highway, and we have Subway in Tracy. Yep.
That's it, right?
Or Casey's Pizza.
Oh, sure.
That's
Yeah.
it, you know. We go out with friends every Friday night for supper. Well, it's gotten to be just crazy. We go to the Walnut Grove liquor store because that's what's open, you know,
Okay.
and close by. Now, there's Old Trails Edge. It's a family restaurant that sells bait and stuff going to Lake Chautauqua.
Curry? Is it kind of the
It's out
Curry?
between Curry and Tracy.
Okay.
And they're going to open up. They're seasonal too. They're going to open up on April 25th. So
Okay.
that'll be nice to have that.
Are they just off the bike path? I feel like my kids and I were on the bike path
Yep.
once and we stopped there for a treat.
Yep.
Okay.
They do a good business.
But no, so back in the 90s, I lived in Avoca and there was the, it just went out of my head, but the steakhouse at Chautauqua.
Yep.
And that's been long gone.
Key
And Key Largo was across from it.
Yeah, by the lake there, you know, we have Pelican Cove and Key Largo. That's open.
That's still there.
But see,
Okay.
it's on the opposite side of the lake than what we're on for
Okay.
Chautauqua here.
Valhalla. It was called Valhalla Steakhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And that
Valhalla
was,
Steakhouse.
they had the best burgers.
Yeah.
I'm not a big steak eater and I had the best burgers there.
My sister-in-law used to cook there. Randy's sister was a
Oh.
cook.
Yeah, it's a
years
great
ago.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we really liked that. So, okay. You're on Facebook, Homeless Treasures. I'll share that. Are you on any other social media? Not
No.
on Instagram or anything,
No.
right? Okay. And then you have your phone number and address, and I'll share that.
Mm-hmm.
I think early on, Google wasn't using the address correctly and taking you to the wrong place. Does it now? If somebody puts in this
we've
address?
reset the point 3 times on my Google account, and now people can drive right up to my driveway.
Okay.
But you know what my GPS does? It gets me right to my driveway, and it says, turn around. It wants me to go up to the church at the corner. My own. But I do have signs at the corner of the county roads and on in the Crep Acres here. My neighbors are very kind to me that like post signs.
Yeah.
But it works much better than it used to.
Good. Okay. And you're only, what is this, like a quarter mile on gravel? Otherwise,
Yep.
it's all paved
It's
until
all
that.
paved. Yep.
And
except for
then
that.
you park in your yard out here. And So yeah, I'll share all that. Well, what words of wisdom do you want to leave us with, Sharon?
I just think that we all just need to live life every day, make every moment count, take in the small things, do what makes you happy, and like what my sign says, surround yourself with the things that you love.
And the people you love, just
Yes,
like you do.
and the
You do a
people.
good job of that.
Yep, and the people too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting me come over and shop early.
She even brought the truck, so I'll see what happens.
You're right. I did bring the pickup. Oh, well, that I don't want to forget too. You have a lot of things
I
outdoors.
do a lot of outdoor stuff in the summertime. That's the biggest part of my business in the summer.
Right.
Rusty, trusty junk.
Yeah.
And just different things for planting or decor. I bring home parts of buildings, so I have things to display on. So
Yeah. Well, and it gives you good ideas too, like you said, of outdoor things. So a lot of junk pieces that I've purchased are planters outside.
absolutely, it's a big. That's always popular.
Right.
People, I said, "What's the best seller?" I said, "All my stuff in the summertime, outside stuff."
I love old oil barrels, the really tall barrels. Those make amazing planters.
Yep.
Yeah.
I bought myself a plasma cutter. Do you know what that is?
Yes, Jason has one.
Well, I have a friend from the chicken coop, Faith, and she does a lot of it. So I bought a bucket from her that she had cut this flour, and I was just oohing and on. And she said, "Well, Sharon, you can do that." I said, "Oh, I thought they cost a fortune." Well, the small ones don't cost that much off of Amazon. So it's still in the box, so I haven't had time to play with it. That's on my to-do list too. So,
What kinds of things are you going to?
oh, I've been collecting metal like chicken feeders, waters, and old
yeah.
rusty cans, and 5-gallon cans, and so yeah. I just need to live to be 100 to do everything I want to do. So.
Is there an end game here? Do you just figure you'll, like you said earlier, just when I go, just mark it on sale and open the door?
Somebody said, "How long are you going to do this?" And I said, "Oh, I think I got another good 10 years in me." So We'll see.
Good, good. I have another 10 years of buying in me, so.
Good. Perfect.
Good.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sharon, very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, can't wait to come back with my sisters.
That's perfect. I love family groups. Family. So much fun.
Thanks for joining me and Sharon on this junking journey to homeless treasures. I hope Sharon's stories and her creativity and her giant banana muffins inspired you to see old things in a new light and maybe even go treasure hunting of your own. Recipes, photos, and a list of the places participating in the 2025 Spring Shop Hop are on randomsweets.com. And also just a note, the exhibit that I mentioned at the Old Courthouse Museum in Sioux Falls, South Dakota is called Cooking Up History, the Evolution of Kitchens and Cookbooks. And I will have a podcast episode coming up with them as well. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens and share it with a friend who loves vintage finds and just good conversation. Until next time, keep finding beauty in the everyday, and don't forget, sometimes it's the quirky stuff that makes life sweet. I'm your host, Stacy Mergenthal. Sweet wishes.